Good evening, TheoTrade. This is Corey Rosenblum, and you're watching the Theo Nightly video for the 7th of November, 2019. We're going to check our fangs tonight, mainly Facebook, Apple, and Amazon, Netflix, and Google. And while the market's making all-time highs, we'll look beneath the market to these sectors, mainly the XLK technology sector. But there's two different pathways the fangs are taking. Now, FANG is also another word for the titans of tech, or the monsters of tech that we call them here in TheoTrade. It's just 4 stocks, 5 with Amazon there, grouped together, and it's popular stocks that many people trade. So we're looking at levels, trade opportunities, and why these FANGs, or these 5 stocks, are taking a little bit of a different direction. So I have it set up purposely that Facebook and Netflix are over here, and then Apple, also Amazon if we wish, and Google are on the right side of the chart. That's because in 2 of these stocks, they're into resistance. They're trading sideways to down. And of course, those are Facebook shares, which had a sell swing. We discussed that earlier. A sell swing bias just shy of 200 per share. And that, if we update the chart, allowed for some in-out spreads. That's $10 roughly in the profit zone now, or all the way from that 200 spot, and vertical spreads to the downside. So if Facebook is one of those stocks that we are breathing a sigh of relief, that despite everything else, seems like Facebook is giving some downside or bearish profits. Now we'll take a look at these individually later in the video. And on the other side, we have Netflix. And Netflix has been going down, and that's that peak roughly into 380 per share. And we've seen the break, stabilization, break, bounce. We got that bounce, but now we're into resistance, and that's 300. So I'll paint a different picture depending on whether you consider yourself a bull or a bear. And I'll even hint that the bear side is a little bit more powerful, because who wants to be bullish up at these all-time or new 2019 highs? Remember, we do stock scans from time to time that take a look at stocks making new 52-week highs. There's signs of strength, and the suggestion is that they keep getting stronger, and that we want to be buyers on pullbacks or retracements. And that hasn't happened just yet. Nonetheless, Google and Apple keep getting stronger. And for comparison's sake, Amazon is more like the others, which is into resistance. So it peaked June, July of this year, 2000 level, and has fallen lower since. Now, Amazon has staked out a sideways trading range roughly between 1700 and 1800. Okay, let's look at these on the individual basis, and we'll start with Facebook. Now, again, Facebook shares, and what are we doing for the video? We're looking at any positions, any logic, and what the probable swing or next move for the shares are. And that is, as has been discussed, a sell swing. And that's just shy of the 200 per share level, taking us down to the midpoint of this sideways rectangle, which is about 185 per share. And at the bottom, roughly 174, or just to make it easy, 175. We do have some bearish plays or bearish pathways, however you want to execute or trade or manage a sell side activity or sell side outcome, similar to each of the prior examples when Facebook hit resistance and then traded down. Well, keep in mind resistance and look at Amazon. Similarly, we had a failure to bounce off of a lengthy trend line. So Amazon has broken its trend, and now it can update it such that it's in a sideways trading range. And those levels, again, bullish bounce, bullish play, was successful off of 1700, and now we're back into 1800. So that is your decision point. If for some reason you want to be bullish on Amazon, I would like to put positions on above, let's just go ahead and say 1815, to give a little bit of room to run or room to wiggle. So let the market break above, ideally on high bullish volume, and that could send shares up to 1875 or maybe even 1850 to be a little conservative, because that is the prior high, and that's from September. So I would say dominant thesis, sell swing away from 1800, to fill out the range or trade down to about 1700. On the other side, we'll actually look at Netflix because I want to talk about resistance first because the logic will be the same. So in Netflix, our pivot is 300 per share. And again, bullish if the market takes that out. It is a pivot for a reason, and that's why. Anybody who went long or traded bullishly off of 250 or 260 is well in that profit zone and probably closing positions. And that's a sell activity. So we will expect additional sell side action against the 300 resistance. Well, those are the bear plays. At least we have a level to lean against short. Now, that's not the case in some other FANGs or other technology names, and that's Apple. If you're a bear, look away. Don't look. Don't look. Pretend like this held. Pretend like resistance was in play. Alas, it wasn't. And so Apple shares broke above this 230 per share resistance pivot, kept going higher, and that we always look at volume, and green or bull volume was strong going into the underside of resistance, and that suggested a breakout that occurred. So again, we like to trade pullbacks or retracements. Earnings just came out on Apple, and the shares climbed after a volatile session before and after, and is now peaking at, or I guess not peaking just quite, but trading into 260 per share. That again is on high volume. So there's no trade here. There's no way to get into it. And if you want to short this, be my guest. That gave you a short sell overbought signal with a couple of reversal candles into 258 per share. And that didn't work because Apple shares went higher. So I don't recommend shorting or fighting a breakout stock. I'd rather lean against a level, because if that level fails, we know to cover, roll, or hedge, or otherwise just close the position with a loss. If you don't do that, that risks significant loss. With options and verticals, the loss takes care of itself or is a fixed loss. But if you just got short a few hundred shares into 230, well, that's a different tale with the share prices $30 higher. And we'll end with Google. And we'll take a look at its play into resistance. Now that again is a bullish outcome with Apple shares with a break and trend, again on higher volume. But your pivot for Google shares in this case is 1,300 per share. We did extend above it, but closed just a little bit on that just a little bit above 1,300 per share. And again, the market itself pushed up new highs and pulled back. That's the case with other stocks as well. So if you want to play anything, I just really recommend trading with a trend as opposed to against it. And against a level, if you want to play against a trend, short into levels, buy into support. And that just gives a sense of entry, management, and exit. See the price structure. But if you're up in the nosebleed section or up way above where the fair value or trend lines or even moving averages, you just don't have a good entry unless you guess. Nothing wrong with guessing because sometimes that pays off. But again, which of these candles was your chance to get short? In other words, how did you know which candle would fail? And that was an earnings play back then too. But how would you have known that? We don't. So it's all probability. It's all price, levels, and then the trade naturally comes from there. And we'll finish by looking at the S&P, which is at, again, all-time highs. It's the same logic. The market's into resistance. Multiple shares are into resistance. And the S&P futures are into 3,100. And if that isn't enough, that is our weekly expected move. So we're back in this zone where there is overhead supply and overhead levels into the market, which causes us to be defensive. And we just balance that with the reality of, my gosh, this bull market just doesn't want to seem to end. And our positions come from those logic points. On the Nasdaq, we see it breaking into its weekly expected move, which is just about 8,300. So watch these levels closely throughout Friday and into next week. As always, be careful and safe. This is Corey Rosenblum with your Theo Nightly video for November 7th, 2019.